I'm David Mendel with HAR TV and thrilled to welcome Ronnie Matthews of Great American Title Company. Ronnie, a huge issue these days is wire fraud and the devastating effect it's having on realtors and real estate consumers.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the problem.
Well, David, it is a very serious problem, and I think a lot of realtors don't understand it yet. What we've seen at Great American Title and all the other title companies around Houston are having the same issue. In every instance so far that I've seen, a realtor's email was hacked. And then the hackers inside watching, now they're inside your computer. They're watching everything that comes through. So they get in, they're watching a transaction as it unfolds. They're seeing who the parties are, who the title company is, who the lenders are, the GF numbers for the title companies, all of those things they're seeing. And at the right moment when you're getting ready to close, just right at closing, right before, right after, suddenly the title company gets a request for wiring instructions. And then they get back wiring instructions that have been filled out, but unfortunately it's not going to the seller's account, it's going to an account that they've created. So if nobody catches it, then that money is getting wired out and going to the wrong place.
And this can be devastating to anybody who's looking forward, especially a first-time homeowner, home buyer I should say, looking forward to that dream home that they've saved for who knows how long for, and then to suddenly lose that money. I can't even imagine how that feels.
And the thing is, so far, and there have been millions of dollars lost around the country. I'm not aware of specifically in Houston any that's gotten away. We had an instance where we wired some and we were able to catch it, put a freeze on it. Right. I know a couple other title companies have had the same thing. If it happened, depending on how the circumstances, it could very easily, the realtor could potentially be liable. If your email was hacked and the wrong instructions were sent out to the buyer, the lender, the title company, anyone, and the funds then went to the wrong place, who's liable for that? Now, around the country so far, the title companies have sort of been the ones because ultimately they took the instructions, didn't verify it completely, and so we've implemented systems to stop that, but as most others have. But realtors are the ones where so many times it's happening and so many things are flowing through that realtor, and if we don't watch what we're doing, then money can get away, and then yes, everybody's upset.
I think it's fair to say in any given week, those of us who use email routinely are going to encounter spam or just some kind of a bogus email. And I think over time we've come to realize that that's usually an unfamiliar sender. A lot of times grammatical problems, grammatical errors, typos, things like that. Are those still true today in terms of identifying a potentially threatening email?
No, the thing is, we all have seen in the past 5 years, 2 years, 1 year back, as far as it wasn't good English, it wasn't good writing. Now, as far as they're watching, they're studying, they've got much more sophisticated. So when we get instructions that are fraudulent, you can't tell it. The only way to catch it is to actually pick up the phone and call the people to verify. Just like banks have done for a long time. It's just that in our industry, we've been fairly easy as far as, because that's the way we all did it. We'd email you instructions and you'd fill it in and you'd wire back, you'd email me back where you wanted your money to go. And we'd just wire the funds. Real estate agents do it all the time with their commissions too, the same thing. So if we're not watching it, commissions get away, but sellers' proceeds is what we've seen the biggest problem with.
What about the whole process of wiring money? Since this has really lent itself to the risk of fraud, is it a method of payment that people should use only as a last resort, or are there still many legitimate ways to wire money?
It's still the best way and the preferred because it's quick, it's instant, there's no hold on the money. I kid around the deal. I think some days we may go back to doing fax machines and checks because that's the only way that you're somewhat protected and sure. Yeah. Although I think if a hackster's watching your email and they realize things are going to be faxed, then they could fax you too. Because they literally, you got to keep in mind, they've routed your email to come through them. They're seeing everything before you see it. And then they can stop you from seeing something they don't want you to see. Then when they want to actually send back their instructions, they create a false email address too. That might be one letter different than yours. So if you've got a Gmail account and you've got dave@gmail.com, they might have dave1@gmail account. And then they send that back to the title company, the lender. They may even include your realtor So it gives it more legitimacy.
Wow.
So everything looks legitimate, but they're very sophisticated now. There is no broken English like we used to see.
It seems to boil down to just being very attentive, being very cautious,
Yes.
and we'll get into some more of the specifics on how to protect yourself against this kind of fraudulent behavior in our the next installment of our ongoing series on wire fraud. Ronnie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure.